All right, guys, today we're doing Unit 9, Lesson 4. It's multiplying a fraction by a fraction. So it's thinking about how can you take a fraction or a portion of a fraction, so part of a part. You're going to multiply the two fractions together. There is no SAB, but what I would like you to do is just get out a sheet of paper and take some notes so that way you'll have it to help you as you maybe do your homework and remembering. And I always know that when I do a little note taking, it kind of helps me remember the concepts and skills. Okay, so here's a problem. Suppose we have a board that we saw into 4 equal pieces. Each piece would be a fourth. Now, let's say if we took those fourths and sawed them in half, what fraction of the original board would you have? Well, you would be taking a half of a fourth, or 1/4 times 1/4. So we're going to circle 1/4 of the board, and we're going to saw that in half. So it's going to look kind of like this, right? You're going to take this and you're going to go in half here. Oops, let's straighten that out for you guys. Okay. Not that piece, this piece. Okay, so you kind of saw it in half, right? Looks something like that. So once you've sawed this piece in half, then we need to keep going, right? And keep looking at, well, if I keep doing that and half of this piece, right? I'm going to cut this one in half, and I'm going to cut this one in half, and I'm going to cut this one in a half. Okay, so now I've sawed all my boards in half. That doesn't look very half on this one. Let's bump it over just a little. Okay, so I've sawed all my boards in half, right? Each of my fourths in halves. Okay, so what equation could describe this, and what do I get when I split it up? When I split it up, how many pieces do I have? Well, I have eighths now, right? So I end up ultimately with 8 pieces. Right? So the equation then that represents this is 1/2 times 1/4 equals 1/8, right? Because this one little chunk then would just be an eighth. So if I thought about it, I could label these out as 0/8, 1/8, 2/8, which is equivalent to 1/4, right? My equivalent fractions, 3/8, 4/8, which is equivalent to 2/4 or 1/2, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8, which gives me a whole, right? And then up here, 3/4 and 4/4, or 1/2. Okay, so what if you split 3 of the fourths? Okay, so if I take 3 of the fourths, 1, 2, 3, and I leave this other one whole, well, what would I have? So when I look at that, I would get 12ths. Okay, if I split 3/4, okay, you would get 12ths, because you look at it like this: 1/3 times 1/4. Okay? Split the fourths, 3 of them. Multiply across, I get 12ths. I'd have 1/12. All right, what if you 2-split eighths? So if you take 8 and multiply it by 2, you get 16ths. So 16ths. So it would look like this. Your equation would be 1/2 times 1/8 equals 1/16. So what you should notice is what I basically am doing is I multiply across, right? 2 times 8 is 16. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay. What if I take 4-split the halves? So if I take the halves and I split them in fourths, I would get eighths. Again, because 1/4 times 1/2 is 1/8. Oops, sorry guys. All right, so when we look at these kind of equations, we know that we can have those shift. Okay, let's take a look at one more problem here. I've got this fraction bar up above. It's divided up into fifths and 15ths as well. Okay, so we want to know how many 15ths are circled and how we know. Well, so if you look at how many 15ths are circled, right, there are 4 groups of 2, right? This is a 15th, this is a 15th. This is a 15th, this is a 15th. 15th, 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 15th. So 4 groups of 2 then makes for 8. Okay. Well, what's the answer to 2/3 times 4/5? When you multiply, you just multiply straight across. Okay, so when you see multiplication of 2 fraction, you're multiplying straight across. So 3 times 5 is 15. So my denominator should be 15. 4 times 2 is 8. So my numerator becomes 8. You just multiply straight across. That's the cool thing about multiplying fractions. It's just straight across. Don't have to have a common denominator, nothing like that. Multiply straight across. So when you take a fraction of a fraction, you're dividing a whole number into smaller parts. So you get a larger denominator because there's more pieces. Okay, there's going to be more parts. It's going to be a larger denominator, means that the whole is divided into more parts. When there are no more parts, what do you know about the size of the individual parts? They're smaller. Okay, the individual parts are going to be smaller. So when we look up here, right, when we divide these little smaller pieces up, they're smaller parts. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of other little quick problems. Okay, I'm going to write out a few problems and I want you to give them a shot on your note-taking sheet. Okay, we're going to do, what if we had 3/4 and we wanted to multiply that by 5/6. So we wanted to cut our 3/4 up into 6. Okay, you just multiply across. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, and then 4 times 6. Okay, so multiply across on these and continue working. Okay, so let's try another one. 2/3 times 4/7. Okay, again, with multiplying across, okay, you're going to do 2 times 4, which is 8. And then you're going to do 7 times 3, which is 21. All right, one more. Okay, let's try one more. If I had a half of something and I wanted to actually divide that up, cut it up into 5/9, and I would multiply across. 2 times 9 is 18. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so you're just chopping these into little pieces. Okay, and then you can see whether you can simplify them, or if they are in their simplest form, then leave them. Okay, you multiply the denominators to find the new unit fraction. It's what the fraction would be divided up into. It tells us the new pieces or parts that we would divide up into, and you multiply the numerator to find out the number of groups in the unit fraction. Okay, I really like multiplication because it's pretty straightforward, straight across. Okay, if you have any questions, we'll address them in class tomorrow.